Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Why We Do It, the stories behind the stories in amateur sports. And we are going back to South Africa, I think for the second time in this series so far. Chris, or Stof Ellis-Cole. Stof is your nickname. Chris is your real name. Fantastic to have you on. How are you? And just tell us exactly where you are in the Cape.
Hello, Jim. I'm well, thank you. We are suffering a bit of a heat wave down here in the Cape. I just got home just now. I saw my car was 41 degrees, so we're sweating a little bit down here. But all
but
good.
You did say that there's a potential noise in the background from the kids swimming next door, so that's all right.
I live on an estate, and the houses are quite close to one another, and there's some youngsters next door having a swim, which is fantastic. I love listening to all the kids and having a great time. So we're very blessed down here in the Cape with good weather.
Exactly. So whereabouts in the Cape Town, or is it Cape? Whereabouts are you?
Yeah, so Jim, I live on the West Coast. It's about 25 kilometers from the CBD on the West Coast, and we're probably about 800 meters from the sea. I live on a golf course, and it's a fantastic environment. Absolutely fantastic.
Sounds amazing. I'm going to have to move there now that you pointed out like that.
No, we're very blessed, I must say. We're very blessed.
It's a bit chilly here in Scotland, but it is improving because it's spring, so there's also look forward to.
Okay.
So, Stof, you and I know each other because we were lucky enough to be together at this place here on the picture. This is Kearsney College in Bothas Hill in South Africa, roughly, almost, but not quite halfway between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. There's quite a lot of Comrades Marathon stuff that goes on this channel. So if you know Comrades Marathon, or if you've done it, because we have had Comrades runners on here, and we will have more in the future. Comrades Marathon comes along that kind of first ridge there in the background. And this is the school. I'm trying to point with my mouse, but it's not going to work. You can see this ridge in front of us, this kind of flatter area. And there's a couple of swimming pools there. That is Kearsney College. And the sports fields you can see. Stof, you can see the cricket field there on the right-hand side, kind of second from the end. There's a white screen there for the cricket field. And then the far end of those pitches is the front gate, and Comrades Marathon goes past there at the edge of that ridge and then down the hill on the right-hand side if you're running down, comes up the hill, of course, if you're going to Pietermaritzburg. So this is Kearsney College, and Stof, you and I were at the school together. This is why we know each other. We were blessed to be there, I think, because of the opportunities from sports and friendships and so many other things. So absolutely brilliant to have you on here. And we're going to talk about your sports journey in general. So let's just begin at the very beginning, at the overall picture with, I know sport was very important to you at school, and you've done lots since then, but what has sport meant to you overall? Why is it so important, and why do you do it?
Jim, I was fortunate enough to have a brother that was 12 years older than me, who was very sporty, and he was the one that really got me into the sports scene. And from quite a young age, I can remember back sort of when I was 8 or 9, be involved in cricket, soccer. We didn't have rugby at the school. Involved in team sports. And I tell you, it's as time went on, I just felt I grew as a person, being involved in team sports.
Okay, Stof, just for a second there, we lost the signal, so I will clip this out. But let's go back to you.
Jim?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Hi, Stof, can you hear me okay?
Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Now? Yeah. So I was actually just trying to say that I lost you for a second, but are we back now?
Oh, I lost you as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you heard or what you didn't hear.
Well, you were quite. There's a nice bit we can start again on, and I'll just edit this block out. But So yeah, I don't know if that was your end or my end, but if you can put yourself back to the end of me posing that question, tell us what it's all about, and just start again with your brother and all that, just as if you're starting. I've just finished, and you're starting that question. Answer again.
Okay. Yeah, Jim, from a very young age, I was involved in a lot of sport, mainly because of my brother. He was 12 years older than me. He loved sport, and he really, really got me involved. And when I was I can remember back to about 8 or 9, I played cricket, I played hockey, played soccer. We didn't have rugby at our primary school. Played soccer, but I remember being involved and him pushing me to be involved in team sports. And I tell you, as a young person, it really gave me a lot of confidence. And that I've carried through right through my life, to the point that I really encourage my sons, and even to this day, I encourage them to be involved in team sports, because I think you've got to respect your fellow teammate. You've obviously got team cultures that you have to work within, and it's just a fantastic thing. And it's helped me a lot in my business, learning how to communicate with other people. It really, really has helped me.
We're going to talk about your family because that's another massive part of the story overall. But before we get to that, I just want to ask you about. I mean, we were at school together. We talked about your time at school separately to this, and you've talked openly about academics not being kind of necessarily your strength at school, but sport just gave you so much to work with as you were dealing with that and working through that. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Definitely. And I tell you, it sort of came to the fore when I went to high school, because it was an all boys school, as you know, and I was very poor at academics. I got into Kersney because I played sport. I really believe that. Although my brother had been there, was ahead of me, but because I played sport, and there was a deal at Kersney that the school fees for me would never go up. I was locked at a certain price or whatever it was, my father was. And for my whole time at Kersney, I never had to incur increases because I played a lot of sport. So when I arrived there, I remember there was one other bloke from my primary school, a guy called Sean Humphreys. And Sean wasn't really a sporty bloke, but I was. And we went to the first cricket practice, and within 2 practices, I was already in the under 13A cricket. It gave me so much confidence because the classroom was a major challenge for me. I actually didn't pass the entrance exam to Kersney. But because of my sport, I managed to get in there.
Because of your sport, you got an opportunity that then gave you so much more and set you up for life.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So I'm going to jump to... Sorry, go on immediately.
No, immediately, as I said, I got into under 13A cricket team.
Yeah.
And then I had 10 other friends. Straight away.
We'll come back to the other kind of pretty amazing success story through that and then beyond school. But I want to jump to something because it's remarkable, and I vaguely remember this at the time. We were living in different worlds a bit, but we talked about this. You put in your notes about a match. Those who know the kind of schools in South Africa in that region, there was 3 particular schools: Kersney, Michaelhouse, and Hilton. And in a particular cricket match against Michaelhouse, you wrote in your notes, so I'm going to do the first bit and you're going to pick up the story. This is in 1985, so what was eventually your second last year at school. We were playing a cricket match against Michaelhouse at Kersney. It was the first over after lunch, and I was batting. I find it amazing that you can remember that it was the first over after lunch. The guy bowled me a bouncer, and I ducked. I remember thinking to myself that if he bowls another one like that, I'm going to hit him out of the field into the music room, which was next to it there. He did bowl a bouncer. I went to hook it, and I missed it. Tell us what happened after that.
So I went to hook it, and I missed it, and it caught the top of my bat, and it hit me straight full on into the eye. It broke my eye socket. I broke my nose and knocked me out. At that time, I was 16 years old, and I just want to touch a little bit about that Michaelhouse. So most of the guys that I played with in that Michaelhouse team, I'd played with from under 13, so I knew them very well. And the bloke that bowled the ball, I knew him very well, and I knew that he was going to bowl me a few bounces after lunch. So I was already, quite prepared. But I got hit in the eye, and I remember waking up in the sand, which was the school clinic, as you know. And I was covered in blood, not really knowing where I was. And there were people around the bed, and there was a doctor there. My dad was at the school, but he had gone to lunch with some friends. So he never actually saw the accident. So they managed to get hold of him, brought him to the sand, saw me there, obviously lying in the bed. And I was very nauseous and, as I say, blood everywhere. And the doctor said, look, this is very serious. We've got to get an ambulance. Now, you know where Kersney is. To get an ambulance there is going to take some time. And my father said, no ways, get him in the car. I am taking him to St. Augustine's Hospital. So a few guys carried me to the car and we drove down there. I remember my father, I was bringing up in the car the whole way down, but he was driving at 140, whatever it was. I mean, he was motoring down there. And we rushed into sort of a trauma unit and they got me in. And that's where I spent a week or two.
And in the end, the outcome of that wasn't great, was it? But
yeah, so what actually happened, Jim, was that the blow was so severe that it tore my retina in half and it pulled my optic nerve out of the back of my eye.
Jeez.
And that's why there's nothing that they can do. So currently, I have about 6% vision in my right eye.
And it's been like that ever since you were 16, yeah.
Yes. And over the years, with laser treatment and what have you, people have said, no, you can get this repaired. You can repair the retina part, but you can never repair the optic nerve that was pulled away from the back of my eye. And that's why I've never even, well, as I say, after about 10 years, sort of in my 20s, there was some I was considering maybe having, but they said, look, you're never going to get the full sight back anyway.
But they weren't only saying that, were they? They were talking about your future in sport, and considering how important sport was for you, that wasn't great either.
No. So once the sort of swelling had gone down, which is about 2 weeks or so afterwards, there was my father found out about this professor in Pretoria, who he got hold of, and the professor said, look, I don't know why you're contacting me. You have one of the best surgeons in the whole world based in Durban. These are his details. You've got to get hold of him, which my father did do. So we went to see him from about the second week. We went to see him. And I remember it must have been about 6 to 8 weeks after I started seeing him. It must have been about the fourth or fifth consultation. He asked me to leave the room, which I did. And he just wanted to talk to my father. They then called me back in, and my dad said to me in front of the surgeon, he said, look, they're telling us that you must never, ever play cricket again, and you must never, ever play a contact sport. So I didn't sort of elaborate on it the first time, but the reason was, Jim, was to protect my other eye.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they knew I would have no sight in my left eye. So it made sense. Anyway, we left there, and we were walking to the car, and can I just also say, around that time, sort of in the mid 80s in cricket, the cricket helmets were sort of starting to rear their head, but it wasn't a big thing. We didn't really know much about cricket helmets. But we were walking back to the car, and I said to my father, I want to carry on playing cricket. I'm going to carry on playing. I don't mind what team I play. I want to carry on playing. So we literally drove from there to the middle of central Durban, where there was a sports shop called King Sports, and my father bought me a cricket helmet.
Amazing.
And there were two options. You could get a cricket helmet with a visor just on the side, or a grill in the front.
Mm-hmm.
So we went for the grill in the front.
And you must have been one of the first guys. You must have been one of the first guys in school sports to wear something like that.
There was one other bloke that had one, but he had the one with the side visor. But it would have served no purpose for me. I would have been hit anyway.
Yeah.
I was the first one to have one with a full grill in the front.
Amazing. And then I asked you offline before, losing sight pretty much completely in one eye, and the whole distance perspective. You've now got the helmet, but how's the vision playing into your sports? And you're obviously massively into hockey, as we'll hear a little bit about in a second. So cricket and hockey, small ball, kind of fast moving. How did that play out with effectively one working eye?
Jim, I went back to school and I started playing cricket again straight away. It never, ever bothered me. I never, ever thought I'm under pressure. I never thought I can't see. But I was thinking about it the other day after we spoke the first time, and I thought to myself, I wonder why. I wonder if that accident happened much later in life, how I would have adapted. I went back to all boys school. We were playing sport. There was no messing around. Yeah, the guys sort of knew about the accident, and we went straight back into it, which was fantastic. So I didn't really have time to sort of think about it or worry about it. I just went straight back in.
And I want to say though, when you talk about going back there and we were playing sport, I get what you mean, but for people, it's hard to explain for folks who didn't have that experience. When you say that, I mean the sport we were doing in that little bubble world was serious. We were all really seriously into our sports, and obviously for some people like you, it spread out beyond school sports, and you did higher level things even while you were at school. But what we were doing, even just amongst ourselves at school, was nothing like I've ever heard talked about it in many other schools. It was full on and intense, and it was just such an amazing experience. But you got back in the first team, and just cracked on, didn't you? But you initially were in the second team. I love the story about being in the second team and then making your way back.
Yeah, there was a young teacher that had arrived at the school, and he said to me, "Why don't you come and have a?" He was the coach of the second team. "Why don't you come and have a practice with us and see how you go?" I said, "Yes, I will," and I did, and I practiced quite well in the nets. And then they were playing Hilton at Kersney.
The three schools
on the Saturday. Yeah. And he said, "Would you be comfortable opening the batting?" I said, "Thank you, sir. I would. Thank you. I'm going to take the opportunity." And I went in and I made 88. And thinking back now, Jim, I wonder why it didn't bother me going back to exactly the same place where the accident happened, going through the same sort of routine. It didn't even cross my mind.
Well, you said a second ago about being young, amazing.
Yes, youth is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Absolutely amazing.
I just went straight back in. I made 88 the following week. And I'm just going to add this because I think it is quite important, and it's come up late in my life. I was treated very poorly, I felt, by the first team coach. He had no option but to put me back in. He didn't want to put me back in, but he actually had no option. But that also affected me, I felt, later on in my career. That he was forced to, but he didn't want to put me back in. He didn't like me at all. But he was forced.
Can I put the picture up now of the team? I was about to put the picture of the first team up. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Here's the picture, and you can see, for those of us who know, you can see who you've just been talking about. And you and I know that this is a good bunch of folks. These are all our pals, and there you are on the right hand side, established back as an important part of that team. Despite everything that happened to you. But let's move on because there's so much to talk about. You did other sports there, and we'll get out of school quite quickly. You were into your athletics. You and I are both in this picture. I wasn't in the cricket team, but I am in this team. I'm just trying to find you again. Where are you again? We found you last. Oh, there, back row, about 5 from the right.
Up the top there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the right. I'm second row back on the right hand side here. So we were in that team together. You also played rugby. This is after school. I think this is an all boys team with guys from our school.
Yes.
But you played a whole variety of different things. So there's lots of other sports going on. Hockey as well. We don't have a picture of your first team hockey, which is a shame because that was probably one of your main sports for most of the time, particularly as you got into the first team at an unbelievably young age in the under 14 level, which is almost unheard of. I don't think I've ever heard of that. So just talk us through other sports and your time at school, and then we'll move on because we want to talk about what you've done since.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, so hockey was a big part of my life. Actually, I was probably best at hockey compared to the cricket. I mean, rugby, I wasn't very good, but hockey was a big part of my life. And my brother also was an extremely good hockey player. So that was sort of in our family. So I made my first, I played my first game for Kersney when I was 14 years old for their first side. And at that time, they had 3 SA Schools players in their first side: Mark Pierce, Paul Hogan, and Greg Pilling. And I played my first game, I was 14 years old. 14, and then I went straight into the side under 15. One thing I was quite a big guy at under 15, and I was a very aggressive hockey player. I always was. And the coach at the time didn't like that aggressiveness. It didn't sit well with him. And he and I clashed. And one particular day, we were playing a game, and I'm not sure what happened, but I said something back to him, and he took offense, and he sent me off. And I remember my father was there. And at that time, Jim, interestingly, the first team hockey field was on the cricket oval. And my father was there. I walked straight past my father. I said, I'm never, ever playing hockey again with this guy in charge. That was it. And I just walked back to the house, the Gillingham, and my father left. And I never did. I just said, that's the end of that.
So it's interesting that you could go back to the site of a physical trauma, where you lost sight in your eye by being hit in the face by a ball, and a month, 2 months, 12, 14, 15 weeks later, you're back on the same pitch, facing balls again, and that doesn't faze you. But in a couple of cases, the way you were treated, that did break your kind of skin a bit, and got through to you.
I did not like that at all. I just felt that I was disrespected. I didn't find it. That was one thing I could not deal with. Mm-hmm. I was very sensitive to that.
And you went on in the end, but you came back to hockey. We're having to accelerate the story slightly because we want to talk about the other things. But you that didn't last. There was another teacher came in. You got back in, and you ended up playing Natal Schools hockey in the end. Is that as high as you got? Because that's pretty phenomenal. But you were surrounded by all sorts of amazing hockey players at the time.
Well, interesting enough, yes, I made the Natal School side, but actually I was tipped to make the SA Schools side, but I had a motor car accident.
Oh, yes.
The weekend before the tournaments in Potchefstroom, actually. So I wasn't allowed to play. I went, but I'd failed a medical because I had concussion. But I was tipped to make that SA School side. Myself and John T. Rhodes, that might ring a bell to some of your listeners.
Yeah,
we were the two strikers from Natal Schools. He and I.
Yeah,
and he was very fast around the field. I was a little bit more sluggish, but I had a lot more skill than him, and I was a lot more aggressive. So the plan was we put myself and John T up front, and we're going to destroy whoever we needed to destroy. And unfortunately, I had a motor car accident. But that was, as I said, so we were tipped to do that for South African schools as well.
Because everything else is going on, and when we talked before a few weeks ago, you told me that, and I'd kind of forgotten about the car accident because there was so much around the eye accident. So you really did go through the ringer in a 2-year period there with bad luck on the physical injury side. But amazing kind of time and amazing story, and then we're going to bring kind of what you did after school, and let's bring your family in at the right sequence. Like, I'm really keen to get to your family because there's a real surprise in there for some people who don't know you. And I was kind of amazed with how your family kind of evolved. But we'll come back to that. So just talk us through after school, kind of how you carried on with sport, having reached those epic levels in that kind of focused school environment.
Yeah. So I was drafted into the Navy, and straight into basics to Saldanha. But I remember the second week.
So for non-South Africans, this is the mid-'80s, and everyone's doing conscription in military service. Yeah. So this was something we all had to do. I ended up in the UK, so I missed it. But most of our friends all did this. So you were in the Navy. So yeah, carry on from there.
Yeah. So I was in the Navy, and I think it was the second week. Once you sort of settled down, you had your haircut and all that sort of jazz, and your medical. Then it was sports parade, and the guy said, okay, what sports do you play? Hockey players, that way, this way. And when I got there was an instructor who I'd played against. He went to a school in the Free State called Brepner. And he recognized me. He said, what are you doing here? Obviously, I said, well, I've been drafted in, and so on and so forth. He took me to the hockey side, and straight away, I was off. I was out of the camp probably more than I was in. I was playing so much hockey for the Navy team, which was fantastic. So that was the first sort of year. Then I got drafted. That was in Cape Town, with Saldanha, then Cape Town. Then I got drafted back to Durban. And when I was in Durban, I played for the KZN Defence Force. And I tell you, that's Titch and myself were actually both in the side. He was in the army. I was in the Navy.
Titch is a very good friend of everyone in our year. Sadly died in a car crash about 20 years ago, which was absolute disaster for one of the nicest guys ever. He was a hockey and cricket legend as well. So this is you've hooked up with him again then after school.
Yes, so we both played in the national in the KZN defence side. Then we actually both played in the national defence side. But you know what actually was my highlight, Jim? Was I was asked to coach the women's Navy hockey team.
Wow. Okay.
That I was 19, and they asked me to coach. That was a big highlight for me.
But in women's, I guess in women's sports, things like soccer and rugby are now a thing, but they definitely weren't back then. Yeah. But hockey wasn't it? Hockey was a serious sport for women.
It was huge. Yeah. And we used to play against the Air Force, the Army, the medics. They had a great side. So, and I was the coach.
And you're 20
in my second
years old.
year of military. I think 19 or 20. Yes.
Yeah. And that was a good run, I guess. All went well.
No, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I got to travel South Africa, paid for by the Defence Force, and I had a lot of time off.
Fantastic. As you know, I spent 10 years in the British Army, and sport got me through a lot of things there too. So it's amazing how much sports opportunities you can get, although it was completely different countries. But beyond the military then, let's get into what you were doing. Hockey seems to be something that then carries on for a bit after the military.
Yeah, so what happened was sort of the hockey scene was starting to gather some momentum at club level, and a new club had just been formed. And I was approached by them to go and join them. In fact, the carrot was that they would pay for my petrol to practices and to games and what have you. So, but what was happening at the same time, I was playing a little bit of cricket.
I was about to ask you, what about cricket? So you were doing that, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. There was a West Indian team that came to South Africa. And there were two bowlers, a guy by the name of Collis King and another guy called Hartley Lane. And they came along one day to Crusaders, where I played hockey and I played a bit of cricket. And they asked me, to go and bat. And I had to face these two.
I recognize those names. So yeah.
Yeah. I was at sixes and sevens. I didn't know if I was Jack or Joan. I walked out of that net, and I realized then, I'm not going to make it.
Different level.
I'm not going to make it. So I stopped. I actually stopped. Yeah. And I focused more on my hockey.
I mean, what was it that was so kind of intimidating about it? Was it speed or just accuracy or everything?
I have never ever faced speed like that. I'd never. I mean, growing up, there were three blokes. Richard Snell played for South Africa, Craig Grinya, and a bloke from my class called Victor Anderson. Mm-hmm. They were the quickest I'd ever faced, and they were probably bowling at about 130 k's an hour. Now, Collis King or Hartley Lane was probably at about 145, 150 k's an hour. That's as quick as any international top-end bowler now, like a Mitchell Stark or Mitchell Johnson in his time, or Alan Donald, or Dale Steyn. No, it was
and
at a totally different level.
Talking about internationals, Graham Pearce, he's a Kersney old boy from '82. Am I getting that mixed up? Oh no, Andrew Hudson. Sorry, Andrew Hudson.
Yes, Andrew Hudson.
Wrong person.
Yeah, Andrew Hudson. Yeah.
So he was a Kersney boy. He went on to play for South Africa for quite a long time.
Yep.
He was in the I was listening to a documentary recently about the Hansie Cronje stuff. And I heard Andrew Hudson's name getting mentioned, and in the middle of all that, he was in those teams with Hansie, and when it was all going wrong, and I remember kind of thinking, bloody hell, I know that guy. I was a 13-year-old in the same school when he was playing first team cricket.
That's right.
So it's amazing. Yeah. So facing schoolboys who go on to play international cricket later, not the same as facing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And that's what
prime.
it was my dream to go and play cricket in England.
Right.
That was before my accident. And then I thought, because I was sort of playing okay, I thought I can still make it. But I realized then, definitely not. Definitely
Jeez.
not. The pace of it was just at a different level. That's why I have a lot of respect for these guys that go and face people that are bowling at 140, 145 kilometers an hour.
Brilliant. And then you're in Cape Town. I think we're at this part of the story. And your first daughter's born. And I think your note says you still played a bit of sport, but I really want to get into the broader part of your family. So you've got your amazing daughter, and then you're going to have another child, but it wasn't just another child, was it?
No, it was 3.
3.
So my older daughter, she was 2.5 when the triplets were born. And the interesting story, Paula, there was no fertility. There's no history in my family of Paula's. And we went for a scan at 7 weeks, and there were 2. I think everyone was so shocked that they stopped looking, and we were shocked, and we went away, and then we went back at 13 weeks, and there was a little girl at the back, my daughter, Lily, and Paula had 3 at once.
And you're like, okay, we're not doing any more scans. Every time we come back,
No,
this is not good.
That was the end of that. No, definitely not.
So, I mean, I've got 3 kids, one at a time. And I remember going from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 being quite hard work. But from 1 to 4 in one go, wow, that must have been off the scale kind of change in lifestyle.
Yes, but I think I also mentioned to Jim, my wife is just incredible. She was so organized. There were charts. I told you I struggled at school, and don't give me a chart because I don't know how to read it. There were charts, and there were measuring things, and but she was so organized.
It's like a factory production 24 hours a day.
It was like a factory. Yeah. And you know what? We did have a lot of help. We had night nurses, and Paula's mother came to live with us. So it was very chaotic. I found it very chaotic. And we just built the house that we still live in, actually. Right, okay. We moved in the December, and the triplets were born in the February. It was a brand new house. I had a business. Paula obviously took a lot of time off work. But she was just absolutely incredible.
And meanwhile, as amazing as this is, so gone.
No, I'm just saying the strength of the person. It was just unbelievable. I mean, you can play sport at any level. The strength of Paula going through that was incredible.
Yeah. Maybe too much detail, but was it a C-section or natural delivery for 3?
Yes.
Sorry, which one? C-section, right, okay.
C-section,
wow. Yeah. Wow.
I'll tell you what the most intimidating part was. There were 8 doctors in the delivery room.
I mean, it must have been an amazing thing for them too. I guess many of them had never seen that before. So, three healthy babies, and fantastic, absolutely amazing, unexpected as well.
One wasn't. So he was as he was born, but he crashed a little bit, couple of hours after. But now is strong as an ox, rugby player and strong as an ox. But in the beginning, no, it was touch and go.
And your own sport, I guess everything's on hold now. You got no justification in amongst all that, or did you manage to squeeze anything in at all?
Jim, at that stage I was playing a bit of golf, and I was still playing a little bit of hockey, but not any great level. I was drinking quite a lot, sort of to get through it. But no, not any great shakes. No.
Okay. So just keep us on that journey then. You lead me on where you want to go with us from there through to, it says started cycling in 2006. And you said you can talk more about that. So I think there's a link, but you just take us on the natural journey of coming through that and adjusting and getting back into some sporting things eventually.
Yeah. So I was in a business with 2 guys, and they both started cycling. They went and bought bicycles, sort of mid-range bicycles, and they started riding. About 3 weeks after that, I bought a bicycle, very much an entry level, Orbea Spanish bike, aluminium, very entry level, and I started cycling. And I really, really got into it. I loved it. I was getting up at 4 a.m. and riding, which wasn't ideal because I was coming home shattered in the beginning and sort of trying to help with the children, falling asleep. It was not ideal. But what it did do, as I got better at cycling and I got better equipment and so on and so on, I could see a change in my mental state, how much better and how much more positive I was feeling. Almost to the point that if I didn't ride, I would go into depression.
Yeah.
I was so hooked on it. And I stopped everything else. I didn't play hockey. I didn't play golf. I stopped everything else. And I was just cycling. It was a huge part of my life. In Cape Town, in the sort of the clothing world, everyone finishes with like 3:00 on a Friday afternoon. When I first started in this industry, it was 3:00 to the pub. Everyone would meet at the pub. When I started cycling, really got into it, it was straight to the bike shop on a Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Looking at equipment, buying bicycles, spending way too much money, as you probably know.
Unfortunately, when I
but
switched from running to cycling, I realized that one pair of shoes a year was nothing compared to the
Well,
freaking
exactly.
financial hit of a bike or all
Yeah,
the ancillary parts.
Yeah. But it was a huge part of my life, and I absolutely loved it.
Okay, so do you think there's an element of you haven't done much sport for a while because you've got the young kids and there's no space and time, and now you're getting back into something, and your body and your brain is kind of craving that activity that you haven't had for a while. Am I making stuff up here, or
No,
it
you're
sounded
quite
like that's what you
correct.
was
You're
it
quite
sounded like
correct.
that's what you were saying.
It was almost, I needed something for myself. I needed to have something for myself. But where things got a little bit tricky was, when you get to that level where you're going for a ride and you're riding for 5 hours,
Oof,
and
yeah.
then you come home to the family and you've got small kids that have been giving mother a hard time for however long. Now it's shifted across to you. You've run out of energy. You've got very little to offer. It all got a bit too much.
Okay.
So I had to find a way to sort of start cutting down. And how I did that, I started training on spinning bikes. What bikes weren't really a thing then.
Yeah.
I would do spinning for an hour or so, 3 times a week, just to keep up. Because the problem was, I would pitch up on a Saturday ride, do 120, 130 Ks, and after 15 Ks, I'm gone out the back.
Yeah.
So to try and keep up with the group, to try and keep up with the group, I had to try and keep my fitness up. But it was very difficult. The other thing that happened, I lost a lot of weight, which I loved.
Yeah.
It was my best thing. I loved that. And I obviously wanted to keep the weight off. So it was all of that. And then what happened, my children started getting a little bit older and also starting to play sports and so on. And
so this is
what
exactly where I was
telling
going to
you,
go because, sorry, this is exactly where I was going to go because now we talked before, there's a transition between your own sport and then kind of looking after your kids and their sports. So sorry for interrupting you in the flow there, but take us down that path.
Yes.
That's
that's
good.
fine. No, that's fine. So my 2 daughters, from the age of 3, they dance 6 days a week. My 2 daughters. And my 2 sons were playing any sport imaginable. The difference was my daughters are 2.5 years difference in age. My 2 sons are 1 minute apart. So they always had each other. They always had a friend. They never had to phone someone for a play date and whatever. They had each other. So they were doing it all the time.
Together.
What Paula was doing, and she was very involved with my daughters, driving them back and forth to the dance studio. Luckily, it was sort of 2-3 Ks down the road. 6 days a week. They got far stronger than my 2 boys. Actually, even to today, I tease them because their core is much stronger than my 2 boys. So what sort of happened with us is we sort of went in 2 directions. Paula would look after the girls, but Paula was a very good dancer herself, and she sort of understood that world. I went more on the sports side. I thought I understood that world, but I didn't really. I've had to learn a lot. But as I say, I was very fortunate that Ben and Tom, my 2 boys, had each other. So I can tell you, I think just about every window in this house has been broken. They've bowled more cricket balls to each other than you can imagine. They've passed rugby balls to each other. They've played hockey together. And we've been very blessed.
And now they're talking about the two boys. They're playing pretty decent level sport in their own ways. And
Yes.
What are they now? Age 22. Yeah. So tell us about what they're up to.
So when I saw the two of them, sort of the last year of primary school, I saw my son Tom. Hockey and cricket was going to be his thing, and my other son Ben, I could see rugby was going to be his thing. Although they both played all sports, but I could just see it leaning that way. Then they went to high school, and the school that they went to had a very strong sporting culture, and they were identified quite quickly. My son Ben was sort of put into the rugby program from under 14, straight into the program, and Tom was in the hockey program and the cricket, but also played a little bit of rugby. But as they went on, at about 16, then they had to choose. It just got too much. Mm-hmm. Similar to what I had to do when I was at school. So Ben went the rugby route, and Tom very much a cricket route. But he was as good a hockey player as he was a cricketer. He could have actually could have gone either way, but he loved cricket. So he's gone that way. And now he does it full time. He does study, but he's a cricketer. He plays in South Africa and he plays in the UK. And Ben, he was full time, but they train in the evenings. So he does work during the day.
Right.
But can I tell you something interesting, Jim? I have a family that lives in Australia. I've told you this before. And my sister has 3 children. Her oldest is 39. And she's got a younger one of 31. When I was sort of in my 20s, I would see my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, throwing balls to these 2 boys. The older one could have played rugby for Australia. He's had some quite serious injuries, head and back. The younger one has had a contract since he is 21. He's now 31. He's played IPL, BBL for Western, for the Scorchers. He's been on the Australian cricket side. And I think 2 things. One, I saw from a very young age how their father was with him with ball. So I took that into my sort of parenting.
Yeah.
And the other, my 2 sons have seen what professional sport can bring you.
Yeah.
Your daughter living in Western Australia might even know. My nephew is a very, very successful cricketer.
Go on then. Let's hear his name.
Matt Kelly. His name is Matt Kelly. Unfortunately, he's injured at the moment.
Right.
But he has done phenomenally well.
Okay.
And you couldn't wish to meet a nicer guy.
So that whole kind of thread of seeing fathers and then kind of
Yes.
supporting their kids, and then you supporting your kids. You said
Yes.
stuff a second ago about you've learned a lot. And I know your notes talk about we haven't really followed your notes very closely, but that's great because the conversations flowed. But you've got nutrition in there and other things that you've now learned that we didn't know back in our day. That I guess has been kind of quite a big part of how you've supported and encouraged and mentored your own kids and their own development.
One of the things that I realized quite early on with my 2 sons is that there are a lot of talented sportsmen and sportswomen in the world. There are a lot of talented people. But who are the ones that always have the edge? The ones that train harder, the ones that eat better, the ones that recover better. And I saw that. Now,
train properly.
Yeah, more disciplined. When we were at school, we had everything right around us. If we wanted to go to the gym, we would walk to the gym. If we wanted to go to the sports field, we walked to the sports field. Want to play squash? There it was. My 2 sons were in a day school. They didn't have those. They had facilities, but nothing like what we had. So I decided, and I told them early on, I will support you as much as I can. For example, driving you to practice, making sure you've got the right equipment, making sure you've got food. That I'm going to do for you. But what I expect from you is to train hard, be disciplined, don't shirk your gym sessions, and so on. I taught them that very early on.
And you just given me a little flash there. I don't know where it came from, but I think it was when you said the right equipment. It just kind of took me back to you talking about your dad taking you down to the shop when the doctor said, don't play any more sport. And your dad said, let's go and get a helmet. There must have been this kind
Yeah,
of crossover there where that you got that support as well, even though you were in a boarding school environment with
I
all
did.
the facilities.
I
Your father
did.
was still very close to what you were doing, wasn't he?
Well, I'll tell you now, Jim, my father never missed one sporting event of mine. Never. He was never right on the side of the field. He'd be in the background, but I always knew he was there. I could see him there. And that he taught me. The one thing, my father was a heavy smoker. And as I got to sort of my teens, he could never really play with me because he struggled. And that is the one thing I vowed never to do. I always vowed I'm going to stay fit for my two boys because when there's a game on, I still play cricket with them.
Yeah, I'm sure
I
you
still
do.
play golf with them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that's a lot of fun. I'm reminded of
Absolutely.
something else we talked about before, Stoff, and it's kind of late on to bring it in, but I hope you don't mind me kind of because it's back to school and it's back to just the whole emotional journey through things and how sport
Mm.
becomes a very useful part of just life in general. You talk about your dad being in every game. I'm reminded how you've talked before about the match where your uncle showed up and you didn't expect your uncle to show up at the game. Can you tell us a little bit about
Mm.
that and kind of how sport kind of
So,
got you through what happened as a result of all of that?
yeah, so I was I must have been 16, 17, and this time we were playing Markelas, but at Markelas. And my dad always would arrive just before the game started. He wouldn't arrive too early because we would go on the bus, but he didn't want to talk to me before the game or whatever. But he would be there for the first ball to be bowled. And I'll never forget this one particular day at Markelas. I saw him over there, and I saw him parked there, but I could see in the passenger seat was my uncle, who my uncle never came to watch me play sport. He was a bit older than my dad. They were quite close, but he never came to watch me play sport. We were close, but he never came to watch me play sport. But my dad was there. I knew something was up. I knew something was up. But I didn't go there the whole game. Even at the lunch break, I didn't go there. I only went afterwards. And normally in those days, you'd say you'd greet the parents and then you'd be back on the bus and you're back to boarding school.
Yeah.
But I walked across to the car thinking I'm going to say hello to my dad and my uncle. How's it going? And I'll see you soon. And my father said, you're not going back to school. You're coming home with us. Your mother is very sick. So I went and got my things and we drove back. And the reason my dad brought my uncle was obviously for some emotional support for
Mm-hmm.
my father. We went back. I didn't see my mother that night because she was already in hospital. But the next day, the Sunday, we had that Sunday off and went to the hospital. And I saw my mother lying in the hospital, full on traction. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. And she didn't recognize me. She was so heavily sedated, she didn't know whatever. Saw her. I went from there back to school. 6 weeks later, I was sitting at school. It was the lunchtime and where we all had our lunch. And I remember looking across out the window and the housemaster was walking towards us. I just knew he was coming to call me to say, your mother has died. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew. And there he came. And he said, Ellis-Cole, your dad's here. Your mother's died. It was as plain as that. So I said, okay. So I went.
Break it to me gently. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They just said that to me. So I just went. And my dad was sort of waiting for me. He had just been to see the headmaster, obviously to tell the headmaster that he was taking me home. But he had obviously said to the headmaster, well, don't worry, he's going to be playing cricket tomorrow. We were playing DHS in Durban. and we lived not far from DHS. I'm taking him home now, but he will be there tomorrow morning at the game. So he said to me, go and get your cricket bag, which I did, and your clothes and what have you. And we went home. He took me the next day to the DHS. The coach and not one other guy said a word to me about my mother. Nothing. So the game started and we lost an early wicket. And I mentioned it to you before. The two opening bowlers was Richard Snell, who was opening the bowling for SA Schools and went on to play for South Africa. The other one is Gavin Bukers, also SA Schools bowler. Not as quick as Hartley Lane from the West Indies, but they were quick enough.
I tell you, it would have been too much for me, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and they we lost a wicket within the first 2 overs. In I went, and these guys were coming at me at all sides. Obviously, they didn't. I mean, Richard Snell's actually a friend of mine now, but I mean, he didn't know at the time, and I would, of course, I mean, I wouldn't have expected him to know. But it probably it took my mind off my mother's situation. And then the game finished, and I went home, but my father said, you must go back to school on the Monday. Wow. I think Monday or the Tuesday, which I did. I went back, and I remember, I think the funeral was on the Friday. And I went back, and then the funeral. And life just went on.
It's absolutely amazing. And just the whole, the depth of the fatherhood and the parental kind of decision making, and obviously his own grief and trauma, and
of course,
and you but caring for you and thinking the best thing for you to do is just get out there and take a few bounces from some South African school bowlers, just to.
Do you know what it was, Jim? It's hit me later in life, but you know what I put it down to? Don't be a sissy. Stand up and go, and that's the only thing I can think of.
I just wonder how many times your own kids have heard you say that over the years.
Well, there've been a few things, and I'll tell you now. Once one of the teachers at my boys' school called me out on it, and he asked me to please remove myself.
Right. Okay.
Because it was that sort of thing where it was a rugby match and my son went down and he wanted to come off. I said, no, he's not. No, definitely not. definitely not. So they asked me to step aside. But it was almost, but I think that was also the boys' school. There's no time to show emotion or be soft or whatever it was.
Yeah, and in most cases that's good. In other times there's a balance, isn't there?
Well, there's a fine line.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's Chris, a different thing when go
on. It's a different thing when?
No, it's a different thing when probably you've done it in your triathlons and what have you, when you're having to dig very deep. And you've still got a 42K run or whatever, you got to ride 100, where you got to dig very deep. I can get to that. I can understand. Okay, it's mentally you've got to be very strong.
I can tell you the time, and it wasn't at school that's happened the most to me. And it's for South Africans, they know what, I guess they've heard this a lot. People on this channel who are closer to this than many of the people here that I know in the UK. But when I say Comrades Marathon, yes, I have been there a few times. And you say that's 42 kilometers to go. Well, I mean, it's not 42 kilometers to go and you're only just over halfway. That is, definitely the digging in. And
Jim,
mind over matter.
I have so much respect for people that do Comrades, because you know what? People that go and watch Comrades, they watch Comrades on the day. What they don't see is the training that's gone in before the Comrades.
We'll finish on this, because I often say to folks who are training for Comrades or talking to me about what it's like, and if you do the right training, if you get that all kind of tickety-boo, and that is the hardest part, going out. Here in the UK, if you're training for Comrades from the UK, it's winter, it's dark, it could be 0 degrees, it could be snowing. Done all of that, and you're running on your own for miles and miles and miles, and the weather's terrible, and it's dark, and you're just struggling. Those are the hard yards. Those are the hard miles. And then if you get all that right, and you're in the right physical shape, the race is hard, but it's
Yes.
easier than some of the training if you've done the right training. If you
Yes.
haven't done the right training,
Yes. I understand that.
then the race
I
itself is an
understand that.
absolute nightmare.
Yeah, no, I have so much respect for you guys that have done the comrades. Yeah.
Stof, we're out of time, I think. It's been absolutely brilliant catching up. This is the second chat we've done like this. I didn't really say that at the beginning because we've done the similar chat for another podcast, and we covered a lot of the same ground, but a whole bunch of new things in this one, which has been fantastic to explore. And oh man, it's just been so much fun catching up with you and exploring these things and
Yeah.
having these memories of years gone by and learning things that was going on in your world that I didn't know at the time. So thank you so much for coming on, not once, but twice onto a podcast with me.
No, thank you.
Really, really have enjoyed every minute of it. And I can't wait to see you soon because we'll be hooking up hopefully in not too distant future.
I'm so looking forward to it, Jim. I'm so looking forward to it. And please don't bring your running shoes because none of us are going for a run with you.
That's a really good thing because I might bring my cycling shorts. I might bring my cycling shorts and try and find a static bike somewhere. But
that I could maybe do for 20 odd minutes, but I'm not going for a run.
Yeah. I can't believe you brought something else up. I think it was 2016. I went to the school reunion. I actually asked the teacher to find someone to run the Valley cross country course with me in 2016.
Really?
And this young kid was dragged out. It turned out he was the captain of the cross country team, and he was tasked with taking me into the Valley on the new route because they've changed it and not getting me lost. And we had a fantastic little run round down into the Valley.
That is amazing.
I'll pop this picture back up. So yeah, I mean, I can't use the mouse, but basically running kind of towards us and then off the edge of this down into the valley directly below the camera at the end of this long kind of ridge. And then you're running around to the left, and now there's all kind of tarmac roads down there. But in the old days, it was dust roads, and then up probably down to where that water is, and then back across from the left to the right, and then up the hill to where those two swimming pools are, and then finishing up on the fields. Love that route, love that course. And I got the chance to go and run it again in 2016. Definitely not doing it this time, not bringing my shoes.
I think you should run it again in 2026.
No,
I think you and Todd Pittman.
Todd Pittman. The guy who's got wheels, according to you. Anyway,
he's got wheels.
We digress and we're getting into nuances that people on this podcast won't know what we're talking about. But Stof, so good to chat. Thank you so much. See you soon. And just stay on the line for a second. But yeah, see you soon. And thanks for joining. All the best. Cheers.